if you have concerns about China, shut up, you racist xenophobe. Far-left Democrats defending the Chinese-owned app TikTok as its CEO gets hauled before Congress and testifies for the first time. Lawmakers are looking to ban it over national security risks. There are damning reports that the social media giant has been spying on journalists, scooping up the personal data of 150 million American users and pushing political propaganda. It's a rare bipartisan effort, but a member of the squad would rather make it about identity politics.
Why the hysteria and the panic and the targeting of TikTok? Republicans in particular have been sounding the alarm, creating a red scare around China. Let's not be racist towards China and express our xenophobia when it comes to TikTok. Republicans ain't got no swag. That's why they want to ban TikTok. Republicans ain't got no swag. That's the problem.
TikTok CEO trying to convince Congress that the company is not an agent of the Chinese Communist Party. But that didn't go well.
I have seen no evidence that the Chinese government has access to that data. They have never asked us. We have not provided.
Well, you know what?
I
find that actually preposterous.
We don't sell data to any data brokers.
You don't sell to anyone.
We don't sell data to data brokers.
I didn't ask you data brokers.
Has ByteDance spied on American citizens?
I don't think the spying is the right way to describe it.
Do ByteDance employees in Beijing have access to American data?
We rely on global interoperability, and we have employees in China. So yes, the Chinese engineers do have access to global data.
TikTok has repeatedly chosen the path for more control, more surveillance, and more manipulation. Your platform should be banned.
But what Dems really fear the most is that a TikTok ban could end the gravy train of support from younger voters. Democrats from the top on down turned to the app to reach Gen Z. Remember Beto putting the lotion on the skin ahead of the midterms? And worse, a ban would probably ruin Lori Lightfoot's new career as a karaoke singer. So, Jesse, I think this is like an important moment because it's like the hearing's like a hotel flashlight that shows you who's on the payroll and who isn't.
Yeah, it looks like the squad member got taken to dinner by a few TikTok lobbyists.
I mean, it's so obvious.
Yes.
Yeah, dinner after dinner after dinner, and I'm sure there's more where that came from. It doesn't matter to me if they ban it or not because Biden's going to get blamed. Republicans aren't going to get blamed. All the young people that are on it are just going to blame the White House. Now, I signed up for a TikTok account because I thought that was the thing to do to promote the show. And I go on and I enter in all my demographics, and then they ask me personal questions about my likes and my dislikes. And all of a sudden, I log on and I'm flooded with the exact same video. 30-year-old white moms dancing to hip-hop in kitchens. Apparently, that's what I love. And they know me, and I don't like that because we spy on other people through our platforms. Google, Facebook, Twitter. The Chinese aren't allowed to do that. That's our territory. Yep. But the political correctness thing, that's what really bothers me because let's just say in World War II, Bowman was around. He was going to give Truman hell for save Nagasaki. You don't want to bomb Nagasaki because they're going to call you racist against Japanese. You don't want to let that woke ideology enter into national security because then that actually puts lives in danger.
Well, you know what's interesting, Dana? People are talking about the spying. They're talking about the data. But the thing, it's a psyop in a way that China, the company can amplify stories and videos that manipulate the mindsets of the people who use it. And that's when you're seeing, teenage girls with depression and suicide, boys who are no longer articulating with the opposite sex, preferring instead to look at these TikTok videos. Isn't that a bigger problem if you have kids?
Well, I thought one of the most interesting parts of the hearing was where he had to explain to everybody why his kids are not allowed on TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
And China doesn't allow our apps in China. Okay, so do we have to allow theirs in America? I don't know. But I don't think the Biden administration has done a very good job of articulating the national security threat. One of the best questions yesterday at the White House briefing was from Grady Trimble from Fox Business. He asked, well, is the president for banning TikTok or having it sell itself off? But just last week for St. Patrick's Day, he made a St. Patrick's Day video on TikTok.
Yeah.
So is it do as I say, not as I do? Or what does the president actually want people to think? And then when you look at what has happened in the last week or so in the media there's been a defense of TikTok. Well, what happened? Let me give you a couple of numbers. In 2019, TikTok spent $270,000 on lobbying. Not that much, okay? Last year, 5.3 million. So they know that they have a way to try to do that. So they brought their influencers there. Somehow they got to Jamal Bowman. But that's a lot of money to spend to allow China, who is undertaking a genocide, of which you'll hear more about today when the China Committee has their primetime hearing. I do think that it is time for Americans to take one moment and say, wow, bipartisanship is still possible in America. That was a pretty good hearing today. And the members of Congress were actually pretty prepared on a technological issue, which they're usually not.
Yeah, Jessica, it's kind of, it tells you the seriousness that people take this, that actually left and right can get together and talk about it. But it must bother you that there are people on your side that always use race as an intimidation tactic. They don't want to debate, so they just call you a racist. I'm tired of it, Jessica.
It bothers me mostly that you bring it up. I could live with it if it was just out there in the ether, but that I have to talk about it every day. I was glad that he was so far out on a limb by himself in this particular defense. And I should add that the American Civil Liberties Union is on his side about it. So it's a couple squad members plus an important free speech organization.
Not anymore.
It's definitely their reputation has definitely been degraded for sure, but it still is something. It's not a nothing organization. I thought the hearings were great. I still think the younger members showed up the older members a bit, but it was nice to see that Republican and Democratic members both knew what they were talking about and went for different angles. You know how sometimes they just hit the same thing, but it seemed like everybody had a little piece of the puzzle. I don't know if it was bipartisan coordination, which would be incredible, but I was impressed by that. One of the outstanding issues, and I should note, so the only social media that I have is Twitter, and I use that to stay in touch with the news. I'm very scared of social media generally, and I was talking to a tech journalist who actually has a separate phone for TikTok. She's aware of the fact that she needs to be on it, but doesn't want it to be anywhere near her other data, doesn't let her kids on it. But one issue that I don't think was well enough addressed by the we want to ban it folks is the 5 million small businesses that are on TikTok. And this is the issue as well with Amazon marketplaces. You need to make sure that you're taking care of the people whose livelihoods are dependent on this. And that isn't the 23-year-old influencers that are, roasting tomato and feta on a one sheet and then pouring it into a something. Those are people who won't survive off of this without it. And I realized TikTok wasn't around a few years ago. It's the nature of the business. There will be something new. I hope it is an American. Why can't we make American TikTok?
It's something called Instagram.
But dancing.
You could absolutely move from TikTok to some of the American social media platforms. But the amazing part of this is that I didn't hear a lot of discussion today. And by the way, I was thrilled that it was bipartisan. I mean, as an American, I looked at them testifying, and I said, isn't that great? The Democrats and the Republicans are agreeing on something. But, the dangers, they're biometric identifiers. I mean, they are exploiting us. And this guy who comes in, he was evasive. He was misleading. I think he thought, someone said he wasn't prepared. No, I think he thinks that we're stupid. That ByteDance isn't answerable, that the parent company, TikTok, isn't answerable to the CCP, that the CCP can't just come in and say to ByteDance, I want to see everything that's on there. And then when you kind of join it with what else is going on, the China, the CCP, just had a spy craft going over our intercontinental ballistic missile sites. You just have Putin now meeting with Xi Jinping, talking about a new world order. I mean, is it a surprise that they would use this particular medium to get information on us, to be able to spy on what our kids do and be able to know everything about what's going on? And while we're at it, we ought to look at Google. We ought to look at our own social media sites. And these people who respond with, it's racist to be against the Chinese, it just shows you how shallow they are. They're not interested in looking into what the problem is. And he doesn't even talk about the Uyghurs or the concentration camps or, the genocide, as Dana mentioned, that's going on in China. I mean, it's just everything is through the lens of racism. Well, you've got to give that up. You've got to deal with the facts, because racism doesn't mean anything anymore. It doesn't mean anything to me anymore when someone says someone else is a racist. So, I mean, I think this was a good day for America. I think with the continuing hearings on China, people will hopefully start to recognize how dangerous China is to the United States.
You know, the downside to banning TikTok, no libs of TikTok.
Oh, no.
And you know what? Maybe that's why the Dems want it gone. Because the libs of TikTok has done more to expose wokeism on social media than almost.
She does it on Twitter too, though. No?
Yeah.
She'll just take it over.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's only, the best stuff comes from TikTok. The crazy, screwed up teachers.
I don't follow her.
With more piercings than a bait and tackle shop. I love those.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.